So I had a lady who asked me this question about, this was in the relationships category. And one of her questions was, she said that her husband has a past. This is what she said. Her husband has a past and he hasn't healed from his past and he won't go to therapy. She said he got a past that he doesn't want to go to therapy about, and she doesn't know how to move forward. Or should she just walk away? And she's been married for 9 years, and that the abuse has been more emotional and it's gotten so bad with him disrespecting her as well as their children. And she had to move back into her own home. You know what I'm saying? She said they live separate. So basically, in a nutshell, she's been married for 9 years. Her husband's been very emotionally abusive. She had to move out of the house. And so she's now asking me, should she stay or walk away? And see, this is the part that gets very tricky. And this is what I tell people all the time, because even though that this is her husband, right? When we're married to people, there's no doubt that many of us love the person that we're with, and we see better for themselves. Like we see more in them than sometimes they probably can see. And we can also see the damage that is doing to them. You know what I mean? And how it impacts everybody involved. And so the challenge becomes in hoping that they would change. This is the challenge. The challenge becomes in hoping that they will change, or thinking that we might have the ability to change them if we love them enough. You know what I'm saying? And so here's the part where I tell people that they have to understand when they're with somebody, is that it's so important to know that you're not responsible for his inability or even hers to do their own individual work. And that's really important when you with somebody. Facebook, let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up, right? This has to be a decision done by him. That's just the facts. And I'm saying this because we can oftentimes think that we have a level of power where we can actually change someone or fix someone, or believe that if we can be the person that we need to be for them, that they will do it. And now you can help someone. And this is what I tell people. You can help people, but only if they're willing to help themselves. And that includes your spouse. And because her spouse is very resistant to getting the help. He's very resistant to getting the help that's required of him. There's not really much that this person can do in helping them in a way that involves a team effort. So here's the thing. Yes, you help people, of course, but you can only help people who really want to help themselves. And now, and this goes into saying this: control what you can and release what you can't. Bottom line, you got to be able to control what you can, and you have to be able to release what you can't. And what this means for her is that you have full control on how you want to be treated. This is what I tell people all the time. You have full blown control on how you want to be treated. And when you've been in this dynamic that involves emotional abuse, because she said that this was emotional abuse, I specifically asked, it actually results in a level of control over you. So for those who've been in an emotional abuse relationship, that's what it does. It has a level of control over you, and it's done through a pattern. This is what we got to understand about emotional abuse. It's done in a pattern, right? Of verbal aggression, intimidation, manipulation, humiliation, and gaslighting. Okay. And so I want you guys to understand that part. So, and over time, the constant pattern of emotional abuse starts to chip away at you. It starts to chip away at your self-esteem, right? So in other words, this form of abuse is designed to make you feel powerless. Okay. Emotional abuse is designed for you to start, for you to start thinking that something is actually wrong with you. This is the power of emotional abuse. You actually start to act on the false truths of what someone else is imposing on you about you. This is what emotional abuse does. It impacts how you view yourself. It impacts how you see yourself. It impacts how you respect yourself. Okay. You actually start to doubt any and everything about you. It's almost as if it's so hard to even make a decision because you become so indecisive because of all the emotional abuse. Okay. It impacts your mental health because see, when people like to be emotional abusive, it's a mind game. And what happens is that mental health, it turns into depression, anxiety. Sometimes it even comes to the point of suicidal thoughts, y'all. And what happens is this can actually cause you to forget that you have a saying in this. This is why I say, like, she has the power, you know what I'm saying, and the full control on how she wants to be treated. But over time, you keep getting hit with that emotional abuse. It's almost as if you forget you have power. And getting back your power is in developing a new way of understanding that you don't have to be the punching bag for someone else's unhealthy behavior, because in the end, it damages you. And see, that's the part that I don't think people get when it comes to emotional abuse, because we define abuse as only like a physical thing. We think abuse is a physical encounter. You know what I'm saying? But emotional abuse is a form of domestic violence. And I need for you guys to get this. And if you don't believe me, go look it up. Emotional abuse is a form of domestic violence. And so what happens is we can sometimes lose the depth of what emotional abuse is and what it does to you and the lasting impact it has on you over time. So in other words, even though she's not getting kicked or hit or punched or grabbed or pushed or any kind of physical harm, hitting someone emotionally is just another form of a weapon to use against someone. So when people be thinking like emotional abuse ain't that bad, I got some news for you. It's just as bad. It really is. And so it's like a hidden type of kind. Because see, emotional abuse is not necessarily tangible in the beginning, like physical abuse. You could tell when someone's getting physical abuse a lot of the time. But emotional abuse is like the hidden type. And so she asked, well, should she stay or should she go? I'm trying to paint a picture, because what I'm trying to get her to understand is that you have the power to decide on how you allow somebody to treat you, even if it is your spouse. And see, another thing, because she mentioned the fact that he has a past that he doesn't want to face. Here's another kicker about this. And this is what I need people to get about the person that they're with, is that his past is not her responsibility. That's the truth. His past is not her responsibility. So here's the thing. We often like to think that having empathy for somebody means that we got to endure someone else's past pain. We get those two confused. We think, okay, I feel so bad for them, but then you also take on the responsibility of their pain. So what we end up doing is that we go into this, we make this understanding be excuses. We make the understanding be condoning behavior. We make the understanding be a justification on why they are the way they are, only to overlook what's there and enabling their dysfunction. I know people don't want to hear this, but see, when people ask me questions, y'all, if y'all been following me, I don't give you a yes or no. I kind of break this down. And so what happens is we unconsciously take on the responsibility of thinking we have what it takes to fix them. And I got some news for you. That is not your assignment to do. It's not. Even though you may love them, even though you see that they can be more. You see that they can be more, even though you may recognize that if they got the help, you know that help will help them. But this is a part where you have to accept that this is an area that you truly cannot control, even if you're married. See, we like to think because, okay, but we're married. I get it. But you can't control what they do. That's not really in your power to do. And so she asked me this. She said, should she stay? Okay. And my question is, what is the long-term outcome if you do? And see, the reason why I had to come back with that question is because I'm not necessarily avoiding the answer. I'm here to paint a picture. That's my job. My job is not to tell you to stay or go. My job is to paint a picture so you can make a wise choice. Because here's the thing. Let me paint this picture. You have someone who has a past that is conflicting with their present. And so based upon their past that's conflicting with their present, that past pain is impacting them, is impacting the wife, and is also impacting the children. Okay. And this person refused to get the help. All right. And so she's 9 years in. Okay. She's 9 years in, and the dynamic has gotten so out of control where it's actually caused her to remove herself from that situation. And let me explain something about that part. That is very courageous to do right now. She removed herself. And that's a good thing, because what it shows is that this lady has acknowledged the importance of her well-being. So I have to give her credit on that. It's not as easy to walk away as it sounds. You know what I'm saying? She saw the danger that this will cause, and she made an intelligent decision to remove herself. However, she's also asking, should she go back? And so this is why I'm asking the question, what will be the outcome if you go back with it being like this? And see, this is the part where you have to play the long game. You got to play the long game. So what the long game is, it involves setting yourself up for long-term success. That's the long game. Because here's the thing, even though she's left right now, they're still challenging on whether or not if they should go back. And sometimes when we are in between staying or leaving, there can be a sense of feeling guilty because you left. This is real talk. It can be a sense of feeling like you've abandoned this person in their pain. You feel like you abandoned this person. You believe that you probably gave up too soon, or maybe you're a failure, right? Because you didn't stay and fight. Because that's what the mind is telling you, even though that's not really true. But I'm playing some things that could be going on in her head. And even from a spiritual standpoint, you may feel like God hates you. You may feel like I took a vow. I made a covenant. Like, that stuff cuts deep. Like, this stuff is not just, oh, I'm just going to dip. Like, it sound cute. But I'm going to tell you, leaving a relationship, especially a marriage, can be one of the toughest decisions you can make. And so when you experience those feelings, it can cause you to return to something that is damaging the quality of your life. So when I say quality, I'm not just speaking in terms of quote unquote being happy. Happiness is up and down. Happiness is never consistent, right? I'm referring to this now being detrimental to your overall health. This is what emotional abuse does to you. So if this person decides to stay and return, this can actually break her down so much where leaving again might be even more challenging. And so this is what I'm saying. This is how bad emotional abuse is. Okay? Because you got to think, emotional abuse continuously plays on your self-esteem. It plays on your mental health. It plays on your physical health. It plays on your spiritual health, which escalates over time, which also results in long-term consequences. This is why I'm saying you got to play the long game. Emotional abuse is really this bad. It really is. And it escalates over time. So a lot of the time, let me explain something to you. When people decide to finally leave situations like these, so much rebuilding within them has to take place because this kind of abuse is not easily identified. This is slowly escalate. It magnifies over time. And so here's the thing. The more you entertain it, the more deep you are in it. And the more deep that you're in it, the more challenging it is to remove yourself from it. And so here's the thing, when you finally remove yourself out, and I'm telling you this as a person who works with people, I'm telling you this as a person who have read books by therapists, when you finally remove yourself from emotional abuse, you got depression, there's a level of withdrawal, you have low self-esteem and low self-worth. You have emotional instability. You have sleep disturbances, meaning that you probably can't even sleep at night. You even have physical pain and you don't even know where it's coming from all that abuse, emotional abuse. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Inability to trust. You don't even trust nobody no more. You barely even, As a matter of fact, you don't even trust yourself, because when people play on your mental well-being so much, it causes you to be so indecisive. You feel trapped, you feel alone, you feel confused, you have anxiety, you have fear. There's a level of aggression as a defense to the abuser. You become overly passive. You find yourself crying every day and you don't even know why. You don't understand it. You feel very powerless and defeated, as if nothing you ever do seems right. This is what emotional abuse does to you. You feel like you walking on eggshells. You feel manipulated. You feel used. You feel controlled, and you feel very undesirable. So when people ask me this type of thing, should I leave? My question is, what will be the outcome if you stay? And when we play the long game, that's what happens when you stay in emotional abuse. That's the long game. And so when we hear the saying, oh, you got to love yourself enough. See, that stuff is cute. But this is now the time to build that up. Because here's the thing. She's removed herself, which is a good thing. But to go back to the same thing, what would that do to you? What would that do to your kids? And so what happens is, if you go back, it's going to be a whole breakup to makeup dynamic. And it also displays, I'm going to tell you what it also displays to the other person. It also displays to the other person the tolerance that you're willing to accept. See, even though you may not be telling them verbally, you're showing them by your actions. So you're actually unconsciously telling them, you can keep treating me like this because I'm going to always come back. It's almost like you're telling them without telling them that this is how you like to be treated. And so when people ask me, should I stay or should I go? The question is, what will be the outcome if you stay? Something has to change drastically. And what happens is, when a person is an emotional abuser, they don't just all of a sudden wake up the next day and not be one. It doesn't work that way. It sounds great. They'll be okay for a minute to wheel you back in, to make you believe that they've changed, but they're going to go revert back to their normal behavior. You have to consistently build a new muscle. You even have to admit that that's what you do. If you don't think that's what you do, you're not going to change it, because you don't even realize that's what you do. It don't matter who it is. It can be your spouse. It can be your parents. Some of you guys got some emotional abusive parents. This stuff don't change. It don't matter where it's at. The fact is that this is a real thing. And many people just think abuse is all physical. No. Mental and emotional can be extremely powerful and extremely impactful. You know what I mean? Let me know if that makes sense. Someone said yes, because I did after 39 years. 39 years. So what happens is you have to unlearn all of that. And you have to rebuild. And that's no joke, y'all. Like, that ain't no game. And so I wanted to break it down in that sense, because, most people would say, girl, I would leave. Yeah. In theory, it sounds so cute, but the reality is that this is this woman's marriage. She made a vow. She made a commitment. She's put an investment in. That is not an easy thing to do. And I'm not going to paint a picture because everybody else says that. I'm like, no, I want to explain this to you, what emotional abuse is doing to you now. And see, you got 9 years in. Luckily, you removed yourself. But if you put yourself back in that environment, it may not be as easy the next time. And so that's what I want to and so you have to think intelligently now. You have to lead more with your head than your heart.